You know that moment when your entire world shifts on its axis? When something that seems completely ordinary, maybe even awkward, becomes the catalyst that changes your life forever. For me, that moment came on a cold November evening when my roommate, Tyler, knocked on my bedroom door holding a tape measure and wearing nothing but gray sweatpants and an uncertain smile. "Hey Jamie, I know this is gonna sound weird, but can you help me with something?" I had no idea that those 12 words would unravel 3 years of hidden feelings, silent longing, and the carefully constructed walls I'd built around my heart. This is the story of how a simple favor became the beginning of everything I'd ever wanted but was too afraid to reach for. My name is Jamie Chen, I'm 25 years old, and this is the true story of how I fell in love with my straight roommate. Or at least, the roommate I thought was straight. Living with Tyler Morrison wasn't supposed to be complicated. When I'd answered his Craigslist ad 3 years ago, roommate needed, LGBTQ plus friendly, must love dogs, I'd expected exactly what I got. A decent two-bedroom apartment in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, reasonable rent, and an easygoing roommate who worked in physical therapy and rescued pit bulls in his spare time. What I hadn't expected was Tyler himself. 6'3", with sandy blonde hair that always looked perfectly tousled, ocean blue eyes that crinkled when he laughed, and a smile that could light up the grayest Seattle morning. He had the kind of athletic build that came from actually using his body, hiking, rock climbing, playing recreational soccer, not from posing in a gym mirror. And yes, he was straight, very straight. I'd watched him date a parade of women over the years, each relationship lasting a few months before fizzling out amicably. Tyler was the kind of guy who stayed friends with his exes, who genuinely seemed to like women as people, not just as conquests. Which made my hopeless crush on him both easier and harder to bear. Easier because I could tell myself it was impossible, that pinning was pointless, that I needed to move on. Harder because Tyler was not just attractive, he was genuinely kind, funny, thoughtful. The kind of person who remembered your coffee order, who texted to ask if you needed anything from the store, who left notes on the bathroom mirror when you were stressed about work deadlines. "You've got this, Jamie. Believe in yourself the way I believe in you." How was I supposed to not fall in love with that? So I'd built my walls, kept things friendly but boundaried, dated other guys, nothing serious, nothing that stuck. Told myself I was happy with our friendship, that having Tyler in my life as a roommate and friend was enough. I'd almost convinced myself it was true. That November evening started ordinarily enough. I was in my room, supposedly working on graphic designs for a client but actually scrolling through Instagram when Tyler knocked. "Hey Jamie, I know this is gonna sound weird, but can you help me with something?" I looked up from my laptop. Tyler stood in my doorway and my brain immediately short-circuited. He was wearing only gray sweatpants, the kind that left very little to the imagination, and his chest was bare, revealing the lean muscles of his torso, the trail of light hair that disappeared beneath his waistband. I swallowed hard, forcing my eyes back to his face. Yeah, sure, what's up?" He held up a tape measure and a flush crept across his cheekbones. In 3 years of living together, I'd never seen Tyler genuinely embarrassed. It was adorable. "This is really awkward, but I need help taking some measurements for this, thing I'm doing, and I can't really do it accurately by myself." My heart was hammering. What kind of measurements? The flush deepened. "Body measurements, like all of them. There's this fitness challenge thing at work and they want detailed starting metrics, and I need someone to help me get accurate numbers." It sounded plausible. Tyler's physical therapy clinic was always doing wellness challenges, team building things, but something in his expression seemed off, not dishonest exactly, but nervous, uncertain. "Sure," I heard myself say, even as alarm bells rang in my head. "I can help." "Really?" The relief in his voice was palpable. "Thanks, man. I know it's weird. I trust you, and everyone else I could ask would make it into this whole thing." He trusted me, of course he did. I was his gay roommate, which apparently made me safe, neutral, non-threatening, like asking a brother or a doctor. The thought stung, but I pushed it aside. "No problem, just tell me what you need." Tyler had a list on his phone, a detailed checklist of measurements with little diagrams showing exactly where and how to measure. Chest, waist, hips, thighs, biceps, forearms, neck, shoulders, extremely thorough. Oddly thorough, actually, for a workplace wellness challenge. Where do you want to do this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Living room has better light. We moved to the living room and Tyler stood in the center of the space, arms slightly away from his sides, looking both vulnerable and impossibly attractive. Our rescue pit bull, Luna, watched from her bed with lazy interest. I approached with the tape measure, my hands already trembling slightly. Okay, let's start with chest. Arms at your sides, breathe normally. I reached around him, the tape measure encircling his torso just below his armpits. This close, I could smell him, clean sweat, cedar wood cologne, something uniquely Tyler. My fingers brushed against his skin as I aligned the tape measure in front and I felt him shiver slightly. Cold? I asked, proud of how normal my voice sounded. No, just ticklish, I guess. I recorded the number on his phone, then moved to his waist. Breathe out, I instructed, measuring at the narrowest point. Then hips, which required me to kneel in front of him, the tape measure around the widest part of his glutes. Being on my knees in front of Tyler, eye level with his sweatpants, was its own special kind of torture. You okay down there? His voice had a strange quality, rough, uncertain. Fine, I lied, standing quickly, thighs next. His thighs were powerful, muscular from years of soccer and hiking. I measured the right one first, my hands steady despite the chaos in my chest, then the left. Each touch felt electric, charged with something I didn't dare name. Biceps, I said, and he raised his arm, flexing slightly. I wrapped the tape around the thickest part of his upper arm, my fingers lingering a moment too long on his skin. When I looked up, Tyler was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. His pupils were dilated, his breathing slightly faster than normal. The air between us felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. You're really good at this, he said softly. I'm literally just using a tape measure. No, I means you're being professional about it, not making it weird. I'm making it incredibly weird internally, I thought, but said, what else do you need? He consulted his phone and something flickered across his face, determination, fear. There's one more measurement. Okay. Look, the challenge is really comprehensive. They want measurements for everything to track overall body composition changes. A knot of anxiety formed in my stomach. Tyler, what measurement? He couldn't meet my eyes, inseam and other areas. Oh, though. The challenge requires that, I asked skeptically. It's optional, but if you're going for the grand prize, they want to track, fluid retention changes and, look, it sounds made up, I know, but it's legit. I can show you the email. He was lying. I knew Tyler well enough to know his tells, the way he rubbed the back of his neck, the slight waver in his voice. There was no workplace challenge requiring penis measurements. Which meant, my mind raced. Why would Tyler make up an excuse to have me measure him intimately? Why would my straight roommate, who'd never shown any romantic or sexual interest in men, suddenly need me too? Unless he wasn't as straight as I'd assumed. Unless these 3 years of careful distance, of me hiding my feelings and him dating women, had been more complicated than I'd realized. Jamie, his voice was small, vulnerable. If it's too weird, I understand, I can just forget it, I asked. I looked at him, really looked at him. At the nervous hope in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he was holding himself like he was braced for rejection. And I realized this wasn't about measurements at all. This was Tyler, terrified and brave, reaching out for something he couldn't quite name, something he needed me to help him understand. I could walk away, should walk away probably, protect my heart, maintain the status quo. Keep our friendship safely platonic. Or I could take the leap. Sit on the couch, I said quietly. His eyes widened, really. If you need measurements, I'll help you get measurements. But Tyler, I held his gaze, you need to be honest with me about why. For a long moment he didn't speak, then so quietly I almost didn't hear. I don't know why, I needed an excuse to, I needed you to. He couldn't finish the sentence. I knelt in front of him, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. To what? To touch me, he whispered. I needed you to touch me and I didn't know how else to ask. The world tilted. Everything I'd believed for 3 years, about Tyler, about us, about what was possible, shattered and reformed in an instant. How long, I asked. How long have I wanted you to touch me? A bitter laugh. Since about 3 months after you moved in, when I realized that every guy I knew seemed dull compared to you, that I looked forward to coming home to you more than going out with anyone else, that I was maybe not as straight as I'd always thought I was. My hands were shaking. Tyler. I know, I'm a mess. I'm figuring this out really late and really badly, and I'm probably about to ruin the best friendship I've ever had, but Jamie, his voice cracked. I can't keep pretending I don't feel this, whatever this is. I stayed kneeling in front of Tyler, the tape measure forgotten in my hands, trying to process what he'd just confessed. 3 years, he'd been feeling this for almost as long as I had. Say something, Tyler whispered, his voice raw. Please say something, Jamie. I don't know what to say. I spent 3 years convinced you were completely straight, that my feelings were hopeless and pathetic, that I needed to get over you. His eyes widened. Your feelings. A laugh escaped me, slightly hysterical, disbelieving. Tyler, I've been in love with you since about month 4, when you stayed up all night helping me finish that presentation for the big client pitch, when you made terrible jokes to keep me awake and believed in my work even when I didn't. You've been in love with me. Completely, hopelessly, miserably. The words poured out now, 3 years of suppressed emotion flowing free. Do you have any idea how hard it's been, living with you, watching you date other people, pretending I was fine with being just your friend? You're everything I've ever wanted in a partner, and I thought I could never have you. Tyler's hand came up, trembling, and cupped my face. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone with devastating gentleness. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry I didn't figure this out sooner, that I put you through that. You didn't know, I said, even as I leaned into his touch, starving for it. You were figuring yourself out. I should have been braver, should have admitted what I was feeling instead of trying to convince myself I was straight, that what I felt for you was just really intense friendship. His laugh was self-deprecating. God, I was such an idiot, even Luna knew. As if on cue, Luna patted over and laid her massive head on Tyler's knee, her tail wagging slowly. See, Tyler scratched behind her ears, even the dog thinks I'm ridiculous. The absurdity of the situation hit me and I started laughing, really laughing, the kind that comes from relief and disbelief and overwhelming emotion. Tyler joined in and soon we were both laughing like maniacs, Luna watching us with patient confusion. When the laughter faded, we were left staring at each other, the air thick with possibility. So I said carefully, what happens now? Tyler's hand was still on my face, warm and sure. Can I kiss you? It was such a simple question. 4 words that held the weight of 3 years of every fantasy I'd harbored, every dream I'd told myself was impossible. Yes, I breathed. He leaned down slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away, to change my mind. But I'd been waiting for this for so long. When his lips finally met mine, it was gentle, tentative, a question more than a statement. I answered by kissing him back, my hands coming up to rest on his knees, then sliding up his thighs. He made a small sound, surprise, pleasure, and deepened the kiss, his tongue brushing against my lower lip. Heat flooded through me. Tyler tasted like mint toothpaste and possibility, and kissing him was everything I'd imagined and nothing like I'd expected. Because in my fantasies I'd always been confident, self-assured. In reality, I was trembling, overwhelmed, afraid I'd wake up and find this was just another dream. Tyler pulled back slightly, his forehead resting against mine. Is this okay? It's perfect, you're perfect, I took a shaky breath. I'm scared this is too good to be true. I'm scared I'm going to screw this up, he admitted. I've never done this before, been with a guy, I don't know what I'm doing. Neither did I the first time. I ran my hands up his arms, feeling the solid reality of him. We figure it out together if that's what you want. He paused, searching for words. I want to explore this, us. I want to wake up next to you and not pretend it doesn't mean everything. I want to hold your hand at the farmer's market and kiss you goodnight and introduce you as my boyfriend, not just my roommate. My heart stuttered, boyfriend. I mean, if you want, if it's not too fast. I know I've been oblivious for 3 years and you might need time or... I kissed him again, harder this time, pouring 3 years of longing into it. When we broke apart, we were both breathless. Yes, I said firmly, yes to all of it, yes to being your boyfriend, yes to figuring this out together, just, yes. The smile that broke across Tyler's face was incandescent. He pulled me up onto the couch beside him, and suddenly we were tangled together, kissing, touching, exploring with wonder and hunger and tenderness. Later, much later, we lay on the couch together, Luna sprawled across both our legs, the living room lit only by the city lights filtering through the windows. Tyler's fingers traced lazy patterns on my arm, and I'd never felt more content. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler's voice was quiet, thoughtful. "Anything." "When did you know that you were gay?" I considered the question. I think I always knew somewhere deep down, but I didn't accept it until college. Grew up in a pretty traditional Chinese household, being gay wasn't really discussed as an option. My parents, they came around eventually. It took time and a lot of difficult conversations, but they love me. They just needed to understand that their expectations for my life weren't my expectations. Tyler was silent for a moment. "My family's pretty conservative too. Church every Sunday, traditional values, the whole thing. I think part of why I didn't let myself examine my feelings for you was because, what would it mean about me, about everything I'd been raised to believe? And now I think," he pulled me closer, "I think love is love. I think denying what I feel for you would be denying something fundamental about who I am, and I'm tired of living for other people's expectations." I twisted to look at him. "Your family might not understand at first." "I know, and that's scary, but losing you would be scarier." His hand found mine, fingers interlacing. "These past 3 years you've become the most important person in my life. I was just too stubborn and scared to admit what that meant." "What about your exes, the women you dated?" "I cared about them," he said honestly. "But looking back, I was performing. Being the guy I thought I was supposed to be, going through the motions of relationships that checked the boxes but never felt quite right. I always found a reason to end things before they got too serious." "Because?" "Because none of them were you," he said it simply, like it was obvious. "Because I'd come home to you and feel more alive than I'd felt on any date. Because you're the person I wanted to share good news with and bad news with and every boring moment in between." Tears pricked my eyes. "Tyler Morrison, when did you become such a romantic?" "Apparently when I stopped lying to myself." He kissed my forehead. "I have a lot of lost time to make up for." The next few weeks were a revelation. We told our friends first, most of whom responded with variations of "finally," and "we've been betting on when you two would figure it out." Apparently our mutual pinning had been obvious to everyone except us. Tyler came out to his parents on a video call. I sat beside him, holding his hand off camera as he stumbled through an explanation of his feelings, his sexuality, us. His mother cried. His father was silent for a long time. "I need time to process this," his father finally said. Not acceptance, but not outright rejection either. Tyler was quiet after the call ended. And I held him as he worked through the complex tangle of emotions: relief, disappointment, fear, hope. "They'll come around," I said, not entirely sure I believed it but needing him to hear it. "Maybe, or maybe they won't, but Jamie," he looked at me with fierce certainty. "I meant what I said. Losing you would be worse than losing their approval. I'm choosing this, choosing us." Work became both easier and harder. Easier because we didn't have to hide our relationship from colleagues and clients. Harder because I wanted to text Tyler every 5 minutes, wanted to hear his voice, wanted to be near him constantly. We were that couple, the annoying, newly in love couple who couldn't keep their hands off each other, and I wasn't even sorry about it. The physical intimacy developed gradually. Tyler was nervous about being with a man despite his obvious attraction. So we took it slow, lots of kissing, touching over clothes, learning each other's bodies and responses. "Tell me what you like," he whispered one night as we lay in his bed, which had become our bed without any formal discussion. His hand slid under my shirt, fingers exploring. "That," I gasped as his thumb brushed over my nipple. "Definitely that." He smiled against my neck. "What else?" "When you kiss right there, yes there." My back arched as his lips found the sensitive spot behind my ear. "And when you, God, Tyler." "I want to make you feel good," he murmured. "Want to learn everything that makes you fall apart." "You're doing pretty well so far," I managed, and he laughed, the sound vibrating against my skin. We explored each other with curiosity and tenderness, figuring out what worked, what didn't, what made us both crazy with want. Some things were awkward, fumbling with unfamiliar anatomy, unexpected sounds, moments of self-consciousness. But we laughed through the awkwardness, communicated openly, built trust and intimacy with every encounter. Tyler was an attentive, generous lover focused on my pleasure as much as his own, always checking in, always making sure I was okay, always treating me like I was precious. And I tried to give him the same, to help him feel safe as he explored this new part of himself, to show him that vulnerability was strength, that desire wasn't something to be ashamed of. 6 months into our relationship, Tyler and I attended Seattle Pride together. We'd talked about it extensively, whether he was ready to be publicly out, whether the crowds would be overwhelming, whether his conservative family finding out through social media photos was a risk he was willing to take. "I want to go," he'd said firmly. "I want to celebrate this part of myself, this part of us, and I'm tired of hiding." So we went. And it was magic. The streets were packed with people, all ages, all backgrounds, all expressions of queerness. Rainbow flags everywhere, music pumping from speakers, an atmosphere of joy and defiance and belonging. Tyler held my hand as we walked through Capitol Hill, and I watched his face transform. The wonder in his eyes, the way he soaked in the visibility, the celebration, the unapologetic existence of thousands of LGBTQ plus people living openly and proudly. "I never thought I could have this," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Growing up, being gay or bi or anything other than straight was presented as this tragedy, this thing to be pitied or condemned, but this," he gestured at the vibrant chaos around us, "this is beautiful." "You're beautiful," I said, and kissed him in the middle of the street, surrounded by strangers and allies and people who understood exactly what this moment meant. Someone nearby whooped and cheered, and Tyler laughed against my lips, pure, unrestrained happiness. We danced at the parade route, we collected rainbow stickers and flags, we took 1 million photos documenting every moment. Luna, wearing a pride bandana, was a hit with everyone we passed. And when we got home that night, exhausted and sunburned and hoarse from singing, Tyler pulled me close and said, "Thank you." "For what?" "For being patient with me, for loving me even when I was too scared to love myself, for showing me that being queer isn't something to overcome, it's something to celebrate." I kissed him softly, always. Tyler's parents requested a visit in July. "We want to meet Jamie," his mother had said on the phone, "and talk about everything." Tyler was nervous for days before they arrived. He cleaned the apartment obsessively, made and remade plans for what we'd do with them, worried about every possible thing that could go wrong. "What if they hate me?" I asked the night before they were due to arrive. "They won't hate you," Tyler assured me, though his own anxiety was palpable. "They might be uncomfortable or say something awkward, but they're good people, they're trying." His parents, David and Sarah Morrison, arrived on a Saturday morning. David was tall and broad-shouldered like Tyler, with the same blue eyes but a more reserved demeanor. Sarah was petite, warm, with laugh lines around her eyes and graying blonde hair. The first hour was stilted, everyone on their best behavior. We showed them around the apartment, carefully avoiding mention of whose bedroom was whose, though we'd moved most of Tyler's things into my room months ago. Luna, sensing the tension, was extra friendly, performing all her tricks for them. Lunch was at a neutral restaurant, pleasant conversation about Tyler's work, my freelance graphic design, safe topics that avoided the elephant in the room. It was Sarah who finally addressed it over dessert. "Tyler, we owe you an apology," she said, her eyes glistening. "When you came out to us, our first reaction was fear of what this meant, what people would think, whether we'd somehow failed you." Tyler's hand found mine under the table. "But we've spent the past 6 months doing a lot of soul-searching," she continued. "Talking to our pastor, a different one, more progressive, reading books, articles, trying to understand. And we've realized that our fear was about us, not you, our discomfort with change, with things we didn't understand." David cleared his throat. "Your mother and I love you, son. That doesn't change because of who you love. And Jamie," he looked at me directly for the first time, "from everything Tyler's told us, you make him happy, you make him better. That's all any parent really wants for their child." Tears were streaming down Tyler's face. "Dad." "We're not perfect," Sarah added. We're going to make mistakes, say the wrong things sometimes, but we're trying. We want to be part of your life, both of your lives. I felt my own tears building. Thank you, that means more than you know. The rest of the visit was easier. Not perfect, there were still moments of awkwardness, misgendering of pronouns, assumptions about our relationship dynamics, but there was effort, genuine warmth, and hope. When they left on Sunday evening, Sarah hugged me tightly. "Take care of him," she whispered. "Always," I promised. A year after that first night with the tape measure, Tyler and I moved into a new apartment together, this time not as roommates but as partners. It was a one-bedroom with exposed brick, huge windows, and enough space for my design studio and Tyler's collection of climbing gear. Luna approved immediately, claiming the sunny spot by the window as her domain. We painted the bedroom together, a warm, calming blue-gray that Tyler picked out. We assembled furniture and argued about where things should go and made love in every room to christen the space. It felt like building a life together, brick by brick. Tyler's relationship with his parents continued to improve. They came to visit for Thanksgiving, stayed with us sleeping on an air mattress in the living room, and joined us for a Friendsgiving celebration with our chosen family. Sarah brought her famous apple pie. David taught me how to carve a turkey. Tyler looked happier than I'd ever seen him. My own parents visited for Christmas, meeting Tyler officially as my boyfriend for the first time. My mother fussed over him, feeding him endless amounts of food and showing him every embarrassing childhood photo she'd brought. My father, quieter, more reserved, pulled Tyler aside at one point. "I see the way you look at my son," he said in his accented English. "Like he is the most precious thing in the world. This is good, this is how it should be." Tyler came back to me with tears in his eyes. "Your dad just gave me the relationship stamp of approval. That was really important to me." "You're really important to me," I said, pulling him close, "to all of us." Chapter 11, The Question. On the anniversary of our first kiss, Tyler took me hiking to Rattlesnake Ledge, one of his favorite trails, with stunning views of Rattlesnake Lake and the surrounding mountains. It was early morning, the air crisp and clean. Mist still clinging to the valleys. Luna bounded ahead of us, occasionally circling back to make sure we were following. We reached the top as the sun broke fully over the mountains, painting everything gold and pink and breathtaking. "God, I love it up here," Tyler said, his arm around my waist as we looked out over the view. "It's perfect," I agreed. "Jamie," his voice had changed, nervous, excited, full of emotion. "Can you turn around?" I turned and my breath caught. Tyler was kneeling on the rocky ledge, a small box in his hand, tears already streaming down his face. "A year ago," he began, his voice shaking, "I asked you to help me with some measurements. It was a terrible excuse to get you to touch me because I was too scared to admit what I was feeling. But you saw through my fear to what I really needed. You always have." I was crying now too, one hand over my mouth. "This past year with you has been the happiest of my life," he continued. "You've taught me what real love looks like, patient, kind, brave, true. You've helped me understand myself, accept myself, become the person I was always meant to be, and I can't imagine my future without you in it." He opened the box, revealing two simple, elegant rings, white gold with a subtle geometric pattern. "Jamie Chen, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me? Will you be my husband?" "Yes," I sobbed. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He stood, sliding the ring onto my finger with shaking hands, and I did the same with his. Then we were kissing, crying, laughing, holding each other like we'd never let go. Luna barked happily, dancing around us, and somewhere in the distance, other hikers applauded. "I love you," Tyler whispered against my lips. "I love you so much." "I love you too, I have from the beginning." We stood there on the mountain, the sun rising on our future, everything we'd been and everything we'd become wrapped up in this one perfect moment. Epilogue: The Forever After. Gentle, hopeful music. 2 years later, we got married in a small ceremony at a lavender farm outside of Seattle. Our families were there, both sets of parents, my siblings, Tyler's brother and sister, our friends, our community, Luna as the ring bearer, a job she took very seriously. Tyler cried through his vows, I cried through mine. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. I promise to keep measuring you, I said, making everyone laugh through their tears. To never stop trying to understand the full dimensions of who you are, to celebrate your growth, support your dreams, and love every inch of you, the parts you know and the parts you're still discovering. I promise to trust you with my truth, Tyler responded. To be brave enough to ask for what I need even when it's scary, to choose you every day in every way, and to never take for granted the gift of being loved by you. When we kissed as newly married husbands, the cheers were deafening. The reception was joyful chaos, dancing, toasts, Luna stealing cake off unattended plates. Tyler's father gave a speech about growth and acceptance and unconditional love. My mother cried happy tears and told everyone who would listen how she'd known from the beginning that Tyler was special. As the night wound down, Tyler and I stood at the edge of the dance floor, swaying to a slow song, his arms around me, my head on his shoulder. No regrets, I asked softly. Not a single one. He pulled back to look at me, his blue eyes shining with love and certainty. Best measurement I ever took. I laughed, worst excuse for making a move I ever heard. Hey, it worked, didn't it? Yeah, I said, kissing him softly. It really did. And as we danced under the fairy lights, surrounded by everyone we loved, I thought about that November evening a year and a half ago. How a simple, awkward request had unraveled both our lives and rewoven them into something better than either of us could have imagined. How sometimes the most ordinary moments become extraordinary. How love, real, brave, honest love, is always worth the risk. Tyler had asked me to measure him, to quantify something that couldn't truly be captured in inches or centimeters. But what we'd found instead was immeasurable: connection, understanding, partnership, joy. A love that couldn't be contained or constrained. A love that changed everything.